Hi guys, Dave Wilson here again, and today I'm going to be making some beautiful spinner rings out of silver, and to make them I'm going to be using this strange thing. So what's this for and how do you make a ring with it? All will become clear. Follow me. I'm going to make a couple of spinner rings. I've got a few examples here and they're all pretty simple, so hopefully you can follow along and have a go yourself. Firstly, decide what size you want. I'm measuring a ring that already fits, or you can use a ring gauge. Measure the inside diameter, 21mm in my case, add the thickness of your material, and I'm using 0.7mm sterling silver sheet, and then multiply it by pi, that's 3.14, and this gives me a total length of 68mm. And I'm going to make the rings about 15mm wide. But before you cut anything, top tip, if you're going to apply a heavy texture by hammering or using a rolling mill, then this can seriously distort your metal. So two things: cut your metal a little larger than you require, say a few millimetre or 1/4 inch on the width and the length. Apply your texture first and then trim your metal to final size, and that way you'll have straight and square edges. Remember, always polish your metal first before applying texture, and this is where you can get really creative. For this first one I'm applying a simple hammered texture. This is a Fretz SRM texturing hammer, and check out my video on this. And this is the rainwater texture. So just working my way over the silver in the same direction until it's all textured. Alternatively, you could use a simple small ball peen hammer. Just make sure that it's clean and polished. Simple as that. For this second one, I've embossed a texture by using my rolling mill and some lace texture. Hammering and embossing can lengthen and distort your metal, so after texturing just check your dimensions and make sure your edges are still square, and trim if necessary, as I said. Bend them round, being careful not to murk your texture. Here I'm using nylon parallel jaw pliers. Make the edges come together flat, as this will create a good clean joint and keep your texture. We'll make it round later. Flux the joint precisely and place your solder on the inside, not too much. You don't want it to flood out and ruin all your texture. Heat it gently and then heat the outside just to pull the solder through, and as soon as you see it come through, stop, quench and piddle. We now need to make them round. Gently tap them on a ring mandrel with a nylon or a rawhide mallet. Keep it high on the ring mandrel and be gentle, because we don't want to flare it out yet and we don't want to damage the textures, so be gentle. Clean up your solder joint on the inside with a little bit of emery paper. Hopefully the outside doesn't need much, so keep any sanding to a minimum and watch that texture. If you do need to touch up, carefully polish just the joint, and then if possible reapply a few taps of your hammer using the steel mandrel for support, and your joint should then be invisible. Flatten and smooth the edges on a flat sheet of emery, then finish with 600 grit in a figure 8 motion. On this one I'm going to file some grooves around the edges. Start by marking out 12, 3, 6 and 9 o'clock, and use a small round file to file grooves. It's important that you keep the file pointing towards the centre, so all your grooves will radiate outwards from the centre. If you want, you can add more in between, whatever you want, up to you. When you're done, polish the inside and edges with tripoli and then rouge. On the outside, be careful of your texture. You can use a brass brush and some soapy water to burnish it, or a tumbler if you have one, but keep any buffing on the outside to a minimum. Watch your texture. If you wish, you can use liver of sulphur to oxidise your textures, depending on the look you want. Up to you. So that's both the rings. I've made a few others here. Now for the spinners. For the first one I'm going to make the classic twisted wire. This is 1mm round wire. Be generous, at least 3 times your original length. Double it over and clamp the end in a vise. Use a burr or screwdriver to twist the wire. You can also use a cordless drill, but be careful. When you've done, flux it end to end and place several small polygonds of solder. Chase the solder all along the wire. Wait for it to cool, then you can wind it up, pickle it and rinse it. Wrap it around your ring and mark the overlap. Sew the ends and then just check the size. You want it to just slip over the ring but be able to move freely. Solder the ends and then tap it round on your ring mandrel. Once again, pop it in a tumbler or use a brass brush to burnish it without losing the detail. On this second ring, something a little different. I've got two lengths of 1mm wire, each about 1.5 times my original length. Tie a small knot in the middle and pull, not too tight. I'm now tying a second knot through that. You see? And then, as before, wrap it around the ring and mark the ends. Cut to length, solder, pickle and polish. Nice, eh? Now for final assembly, and this is where this tool comes in. This is the Fretz spinner ring maker, and it comes in two parts. We have the steel base plate, which is set on a wooden base. This supports the ring and allows punch clearance. This is the punch or the mandrel, and as you see, it's got the usual Fretz quality. Hardened steel, beautiful satin texture, and then beautifully mirror polished. So what's the advantage of this? Well, let me explain. Imagine this is my ring and I want to make this floured shape at the end. Most people do this with a doming punch, but it's not always that easy, and it's often difficult to get both ends precisely matching. And this is why. If you think about it, you're trying to make a concave shape with a convex spherical punch. You can see it only touches the ring here and here. A doming punch is the exact opposite of what you actually need. Think about it. Surely if this is the shape that you're trying to make, then this is the shape that you need. And this is exactly what the Fretz tool is. You see, instead of bulging out in a convex sphere, it gracefully tapers inwards and curves in. It's not convex, it's concave and tapered. And that's the exact shape that you want. This tool does the perfect job of stretching the ring evenly all around and creating that perfect gradual taper precisely and repeatedly. To use it, it's really simple. Set the base on a solid flat surface, position your ring over the hole and drop in the mandrel. Check that the mandrel has clearance and is touching the top of the ring, then tap gently with a brass hammer. Just 2 or 3 light taps is usually all you need. Slip your spinner over and check that it can't slip off. Perfect. Just check the diameter and then flip it over. Keep your spinner on, don't forget that. Just a couple of light taps and check your diameter until you match the other end. Perfect. Your spinner should be captured but able to move. A quick buff and we're done. So there you go guys, I hope I've inspired you to have a go. There's so many different possibilities, the sky's the limit, just down to your own imagination. And if you grab yourself one of these things, then it's really easy and you guarantee great results all the time. So I hope I've inspired you to have a go. I've been Dave Wilson, thanks for watching and I'll see you real soon on the next video. Bye for now.